have Black Zarak's head. So you might be wondering, why do I have just Black Zarak's head separated from his body just on this table? Well, if you have Earthrise Titan class Scorponok, you know that there is a really cool feature where you can remove the head and it can transform into a separate figure, which is what I will be taking a look at first. And then, of course, we're going to get into Black Zarak, the full figure, you know, the robot, the scorpion, and the base mode a little later in this video. So let's take a look at the details of the head. So here we have the head, and I think it looks really cool. I like that nice red for the horns there, looking really cool. A lot of red on the side as well. I do really like the nice paneling and line detailing on the side. That looks pretty good. We have some black on the back, and overall it cleans up quite nicely. This really is, of course, the robot mode, really just folded up into kind of a ball, of course, with these horns attached to it, which you can remove and kind of hinge back and forth if you want more of a dynamic look. For the face, I think they did a really good job. There's the nose, the mouth, and the chin, and of course the eyes are picked out in some nice purple with some black outlining them. I think that looks pretty good. And we have kind of this nice crest section there that looks pretty good with some more purple. And overall, looks pretty cool. And on the bottom, we do have the robot mode chest visible, which does look pretty cool, but we'll get into that later. So overall, a very cool, good-looking head. So now let's get into some head comparisons. Kind of an odd comparison, but still I thought I should do it. Here we have Black Zarak's head with Scorponok's head. I thought I'd compare them because, of course, the main body of these two Titan classes are very similar. The only sculpting changes is really down to the head. So as you can see, they are actually quite different. Really, the only similar attribute is really just the horns, which are actually quite bigger on Black Zarak here than Scorponok. But overall, two really cool looking heads in my opinion. Which, of course, later in the review, I'll bring out the full Titan classes for comparison later. But two very cool heads overall, and I will, of course, bring out Scorponok later when he is in his robot mode. And then I thought I would do kind of an old comparison, so I'm just going to move these over. Here he is with Fortress Maximus's head. Kind of an old Titan class from the Titan's Return lines. As you can see, this is more of a kind of a blocky look and feel to it. These are more rounded, kind of an oval shape. So size has kind of changed over years for a Titan class. And of course, this figure here does also transform into a separate figure called Cerebros, so I will bring him out for comparison later as well. So let's just move these off to the side. And then now let's get into the transformation into the scorpion head. So I'll just be showing all the conversions of what you can do with this head now, so I don't have to do it later. I can just put it on there and you know exactly what steps you're supposed to take without having to show all that later. This is really just all the features of the head right now, easily shown. But very, very cool. So I'm just going to quickly show you what you're supposed to do whenever you want it in the scorpion mode. So what you're going to want to do is just move this section out here, just kind of loosen that. And there is this panel here. Unfortunately, this is kind of a problem. I'll do this off cam, but the step here, you're supposed to bring this flap out. It's really, really hard to get. Of course, I don't really have nails, but you're really just supposed to kind of pry that out, and it will cover the rest of the face. My suggestion is I just get like a sword. I usually get Wingfinger's sword from Kingdom Wave 3, and I just kind of pop it out of there. It does take some force and some use. It doesn't damage anything, just it's really hard to get just with your finger alone. So that is the step. You just pry it out and it will cover the face. So I'm going to do that off cam just for your own viewing pleasure. So now that we have that panel out, what you're going to want to do is really just hinge this entire section down, and as you can see, it really just kind of covers the entire face, and this is the conversion for whenever you want him in his scorpion mode. So these are like the mandibles or the teeth, and if you want to use your imagination, these are like the eyes of the scorpion. And of course, later in the review, I'll show you how it attaches in the scorpion mode, of course, how it is involved in the base mode, and of course, for the robot mode, it's just the head, which I already showed you before. So a very simple 2 steps, just sometimes a little hard to pop that out, which is kind of unfortunate, but really I just get a sword and just kind of pry it out of there. So overall, a lot of the details are the same as before, really just that new added detail there. It covers up the face, and you can use your imagination saying those are the scorpion eyes. I do kind of wish maybe there was a little bit more detail here if there was a panel that dropped down and covered this, because this is not the prettiest to be at the front of the scorpion's head or face, but overall pretty cool. So now let's get into transformation for the robot mode. So what you're going to want to do is, if you want to, you can remove the horns if they're in the way. I typically don't, but what you can do now is you just kind of pry this section out to the side, just kind of loosening everything like that. You can then go here. You can bring this chest piece up like that. As you can see, there is pegs and ports there, and those just plug right into each other for the head conversion, but of course you're going to unpeg those. You can bring the legs down. You can then use these hinges, hinge these out just like that, and there we go. And then you can fully spread out the legs. Unfortunately, sometimes this panel will move, so you just want to make sure that's fully collapsed up. You can then bring the legs further down, you can separate them, and then what you're going to want to do is, there's these little panels here. This one's already moved down. Just carefully, slowly move it down. Unfortunately, these pieces are very, very loose, so I do apologize if they untab or move around a little bit. They're very loose. That was the same problem that happened with Zarak in the Earthrise Scorponok Titan Master. Just bring out the hands, bring out the arms, collapse this chest piece, just like that. And there we have, of course, the main body section, just moving up the camera here. Of course, we can bring out the head. It needs a head. And here he is. We can just plug that right on top, like that. And there we have Black Zarak in his kind of second robot mode, and I think it looks really cool. Let's take a look at the details. Now that we have Black Zarak in his second robot mode, let's take a look at the details. We're going to start at the very top with the head. So you have this kind of nice brownish bronze on the very top with the crest section. Also on the side of the face, we have some nice black for the eye patch, some purple for the face there. I think that looks really good. And some more black on the side of the face, of course, that looks pretty good. I will take this head off because it can form into an entirely separate little Titan Master figure, which is pretty cool. I'll do that a little bit later. For the chest, this is definitely probably one of the main selling points of this figure for me. It looks so cool. That looks amazing. This really nice slash or scar on the chest. They did an amazing job with that. It actually looks like these two halves were used to be connected together. That looks amazing. So, so cool. There's a lot of really nice technical and like wiring detailing in there, done in really nice dark pink or almost purple. That looks really good. Of course, that more kind of brownish bronze on the rest of the chest. For the arms, of course, we have that red from earlier. These are the horns from the robot mode, or I mean the head. Unfortunately, yeah, they do kind of stick out there. That's kind of the same way it did with Zarak. Of course, again, you can remove them if you want, but you'll just have some random pieces off to the side. You really having anywhere else to put them. Of course, for the arms, really just done in black, very simple. And again, for these panels here, just the panels that were on the side of the head from earlier, just done in red, but I think they still look pretty cool. If you wanted to, you could use your imagination and say these are like swords or knives, and you could stab Autobots with them if you wanted to, you know, have a little fun with it. For the legs, pretty plain, really just done in black, and on the sides some more red. On the back, I think it cleans up quite nicely. Of course, this is the face, just covered up by that panel from earlier. And overall, I think the robot mode looks really cool. I love that chest. They did such an amazing job with that. As soon as this was revealed, I saw that really cool gash in the chest. I was like, that looks so awesome, and I really wish and hope they do that more with some figures. Just some really cool damage on figures. It looks amazing. Now for some comparisons, here he is with Zarak. And I'll bring out another comparison in just a second. As you can see, these two figures here look very, very similar. Of course, with their heads very different in sculpt, but with the robot mode, actually quite similar. Really, the only change in sculpt, of course, is the face, because this one has an eye patch, this one doesn't. And of course, he does not have that big gash on his chest like Black Zarak here does. Also, one other minor change is, of course, the horns. These are quite smaller on the side of the arms, but these are quite bigger. But the rest, pretty much, the legs, the actual arms themselves, are all pretty much the exact same. Really just down to paint apps, of course. But two really cool looking figures. I think probably I like this one more just because I love that really cool gash in the chest. That looks really cool. I think they both do have that problem with the horns just kind of sticking off to the side. Again, you can remove them, just still have some random pieces off to the side. I'll remove them in just a second just to show you what it looks like. And for another comparison, here he is with Cerebros. I'll have to scoot these off to the side because he's actually quite bulky and big. Bigger than these. And that's actually kind of an interesting point. This figure is from, I would say, about 5, maybe 4 years ago, and the return line, and these two figures here are actually quite recent. This one's from this year, and this one's from 2020, I think, or 2021. And yeah, he is actually quite bigger and bulkier. That really has to do with the fact that he does have a sound feature. If you press down in there, I won't really do it in this video because that doesn't really relate to the figure we're talking about. But he does have several sounds that he can play, so that is kind of interesting how he's quite a bit bigger. I actually would like if they maybe had some sounds in these figures, these Titan class figures. That'd be kind of nice. Rumor is we actually might get some spring-loaded features with the upcoming Legacy Metroplex. That would actually be pretty cool, or maybe a sound feature. That'd be kind of nice, or some lights. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, 3 pretty cool figures here, and they all do carry that really cool Titan head feature. So if you just take this off and unfold it, there is a little minifigure here. I'm not entirely sure what they call the head or Titan Master here. I guess you could just call it Black Zarak as well if you wanted to. I don't know. And also, of course, we have this one here. I won't take Cerebros off because it will activate his little sound feature, and I know probably most of you do not want to hear that. But as you can see, pretty much the exact same. And sculpt, just paint apps. And again, of course, on their back, they have their heads upside down, or their faces upside down, and he has the eye patch. This one doesn't. But yeah, pretty cool features, so definitely a really good deal, because you pretty much get a Voyager-sized figure with the Titan class, and of course another little mini figure on their head as well. So yeah, lots of heads transforming into separate little figures, so very, very nice. Let's take these off to the side, like that. Unfortunately, this figure does not come with any accessory. That's another problem that I had with Scorponok's Zarak. It didn't come with any sword or accessory. Black Zarak the Titan does come with a really cool spear, which we will be taking a look at a little bit after this section here of the review, the Articulation. But yeah, there is really no weapon he can actually hold, which is kind of unfortunate. But articulation-wise, I'm actually going to take off these little horns here, just because they kind of get in the way and could limit the articulation. So you can, of course, just pop them right off if you wanted to. And as you can see, it's much more of a clean look, but do be aware, of course, that port will be very visible. But yes, it's quite cleaner, but again, you'll have these pieces just kind of off to the side and nowhere. But for articulation, the head can rotate all the way around. It can look a little bit down, a little bit up. The arms can rotate all the way around, out and in. There is a swivel to a small degree, unfortunately. It does kind of limit from this. The hand can move in if you want to. That's really due to transformation. There is no little bit of a swivel here. Unfortunately, this little piece does kind of block that. So back and forth a little bit. For the legs, they can do the full splits. They can kick forward to a pretty good degree, and they can kick back a little bit. Unfortunately, this kind of blocks it. And of course, there is a swivel and an ankle tilt. So overall, pretty good articulation for a Voyager-sized figure. Just be aware, of course, this little back piece does kind of limit it a little bit. And of course, these other pieces here, you cannot remove or do anything about that, so that does also limit the arms as well. But pretty good articulation, in my opinion. A pretty well done figure. I love that gash in the chest, the really cool eye patch. Definitely a very crazy looking figure. Of course, pretty much similar in sculpt and structure with Zarak from Scorponok, but there is a few tricks up his sleeve with a really cool design. So let me just move him off to the side. Now we're going to take a look at the accessories. Here I have all the pieces that form a really, really cool sword slash kind of staff that you can give to Black Zarak, the Titan figure, which is really, really cool. Unfortunately, there's really no assigned way you can have him hold it. You kind of just cram it into his hand, which is really unfortunate. I was hoping they would not do that, but that is the case. I'll get into the implementation of these accessories, of course, later into the review when, of course, we have the Titan out. Right now, I'm just going to show you how it's built together and constructed, but again, later I'll show you how he holds it. So let's get right into it. So I'm just going to quickly go over the pieces. So here we have the very bottom of it, which is pretty cool. Nice little angle section there with this really cool blade. Of course, all these pieces are done in red, but I really do like the intricate design and details on here. Looks pretty good. Very, very nice. And here we have two of these main pull sections, which of course form the main body of the staff, which is where you'll have the Titan hold it. There is these pegs, but that is for a different mode, not for him to use to hold it, which I really do wish they'd use these for good use, you know, having a port in his hand where it could plug into, but there is not a port or anything in his hand, which is unfortunate. But yeah, pretty simple in design for these pull sections, just really to connect everything together. But it's very, very nice. And then we have a top section of the blade, which of course a lot of really nice sculpting and detailing, lots of nice intricate designs there, looking pretty cool. I do like how this is kind of mismatched. There's a longer section jutting out here, but kind of a shorter section there. That looks pretty cool. Another piece right here, two really cool big horn pieces. Very, very nice. And here we have the main blade at the very top, the point of the spear. That looks very, very nice. So now let's get into the construction of this mighty, mighty weapon. So what you're going to want to do is get this piece here, you're going to want to get this one here, and really just plug it into place. It's actually quite simple. Just plug them in like that, using these pegs. Then you can plug this in as well, like that. And then you can attach this one, like that. And then finally this one. And as you can see, wow, this thing is really big. I can barely get it fully in shot. That looks really cool, which really just adds to the disappointment that there is no assigned way you can have him hold it. You really just kind of cram it in his, big scorpion claws. Sure, it looks cool when he's holding it, but it is really big of a task to actually keep it in his hand without it falling out or, maybe popping apart. Usually it is pretty sturdy, but there has been cases where maybe this bottom piece sometimes does get a little bit loose, so I would be aware of that, but doesn't really happen that much. Let's go over again just really the details. It's fully connected together, and I think it looks really, really cool. I think it would have been cool if they gave another one of these big pieces to go at the bottom, because this bottom section does look a little small, and this section here does look a little bit overly big, but still, this blade looks so, so cool. Of course, there's these designs in the back, but mostly these are the designs you want to have facing forward. There's a little bit more intricate designs here. There's a little bit more plain on this back section. But yeah, this looks really cool. Definitely not a weapon I would want to go up against in battle or anything. That looks super, super cool. So I'm just going to put this back here because there is actually a few more accessories I did want to show you before we get into, of course, the main Titan himself. So here we have one of the pieces, which is really cool. This came with Scorponok, kind of a little grabber piece, which has several uses in the Titan, which is pretty cool. We'll go over the details in just a second. Here we have two not really that interesting pieces. These go on the legs in the robot mode, and they also do have another use in the base mode and scorpion mode, which of course we'll get into later when they're in those assigned modes. And here we have these really cool blasters, which I think you know exactly where these go. These go on the shoulders in the robot mode, and in front in the scorpion mode. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, several more accessories. So there's actually several things you can do with these, which is pretty cool. So let's go over the details of these new accessories, and then of course we'll finally get into the Titan himself. Here with the last 5 accessories, let's go through the details, and there is a few little hidden secrets you can use these accessories for. So starting with this little claw kind of pincher thingy, we have some nice black for the little claw pieces, which can move in and out, of course, which is pretty cool. We have some nice red there, some purple, which looks pretty cool. And of course the rest is that kind of nice bronze, kind of brown look, which looks pretty cool. And there's a little bit of hollowness, but that's not too bad. There's some pegs there, which are used to connect to the robot mode. So overall, pretty cool. The next up, we have these two very simple little pieces. These go on the side of the legs in the robot mode, and they have a few alternate uses in the base and scorpion mode. But pretty simple in design, which I can forgive because there's really no important feature. They really just kind of cover up some kibble, so that's not too important to have a ton of design. My main complaint is I kind of wish maybe there was a little bit more paint-apps on these really cool cannons, because these are very signature to Scorponok, of course. You know exactly what these are for. These go on the shoulders in the robot mode, and they go on the front in the scorpion mode. So I really do wish maybe there's some gunmetal gray around the barrels, so it looks like, of course, they've been firing for a while, or maybe some purple here and there, I don't know, but it's kind of a shame how they're just one solid color. But yeah, pretty cool accessories. These are all, of course, the same accessories that came with Scorponok. The only new accessories was that really cool giant spear. So there is an alternate way you can kind of store or combine these accessories. So what you can do is you can get these two pieces here, and it's a very, very tight connection. You'll just snap these together just like that, as you can see, well connected. And what you can do is there is these 4 pegs, and there's these 4 ports, and this just combines together, and that's pretty cool. It forms this really cool big shield kind of claw pincher thingy. Not entirely sure what the technical term is for this, but I think it looks pretty cool. Again, I think it probably does come into play where there'd be kind of nice, maybe some more paint apps that would match this design, but I'm not really that picky for this back section here, because in my personal opinion, I typically do not store this big weapon like this on the figure. Typically, these are on the legs, and this is on the very back of the figure. But still, I think it's a pretty cool, nice option. There is lots of ports and pegs everywhere, so there is several ways you can really store this on the robot mode. So mainly, you really just plug it on the side of the arm, and it forms a really cool shield slash pincer, which is really, really cool. I think it'd been pretty cool if maybe you could incorporate these into the shield some way, but there's no way they show in the instructions. But overall, very, very cool. I'll show you how this is implemented into the robot, the Scorpion, and the base mode a little bit later in the review. So overall, pretty cool accessories. Now let's get into the Titan himself. We have the city mode, of course, for Black Zarak, one of his 3 modes. Of course, next I'm going to transform him into his Scorpion mode, and of course, finally his robot mode. So his accessories are already on his city mode here. I will show you how they're connected and everything, how it works whenever I am taking them off for transformation. So wait for that a little bit later. I already did take a look at the details of the accessories and how, of course, the spear works and connects and everything like that at the very beginning of the review. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and check that out. I also did already take a look at Black Zarak's head. Of course, you can transform that into a separate Voyager class size figure. I did compare it with several figures, so if you missed that, again, go back to the beginning of the review. So now let's take a look at the details of this really cool city mode. So just getting straight out here, there is really no sculpting changes, really just paint apps. If you compare this to Scorponok's city mode, there's really no changes. Unfortunately, I really can't do a city comparison because this figure, the city mode, already almost is hanging off the table. So unfortunately, I cannot do a comparison. I will try and do several comparisons whenever he's in his robot mode with Titan classes and several other figures, so make sure you check that out later in the review. So let's get into it. So starting at this big section here, we have some of the accessories. Of course, we have half the spear on this side, half the other on the other side, which looks pretty cool. We have some nice accessories here. We have the cannon and the little panel piece there. Of course, the same thing on the other side. And of course, this main section is the claw for the robot mode, or the pinchers for the Scorpion mode, mostly done in black. We have some nice details here. This is another one of the accessories that forms the shield piece, which I did take a look at earlier in the review. Done in black with some nice brownish kind of bronze. Looks pretty cool. We have some nice purple and red. That looks pretty nice. Zooming in a little bit more, just so you can see some more detail to this flat section here. Some more brown, of course, some red, some turquoise. Getting down to the main ramp section, which is pretty cool. If you want to, you can put a bunch of core class figures on here, which I actually will do in just a second, just to show you the scale of this really huge city. We have some more turquoise, some nice silver on the outline, some more purple, some black, and of course some more bronze or brown there. That looks really cool. Moving to these side sections, so of course these sections here are the exact same in detail. There's no change or anything. They're exact same. So we have some nice black for this section here. We do have a ramp, which is pretty cool. If you have any battle masters like Sound Barrier or Double Crosser, you can connect those to that, which is really cool. There's some nice red, of course some more brown, and a little arrow there done in silver. Some more silver there, a lot of mechanical detailing. That looks really cool. And of course, all the details that you saw there are exactly the same on that side as well. One interesting note is the little Scorpion legs are out. They're back there, so that is kind of odd. I would show you, but it's kind of hard to show. But yeah, you really can't see them from the front view, so overhead, of course, you can see them. They don't really serve any purpose, so if you wanted to, you could just collapse them up and put them in that section there. So overall, detail-wise, I think it looks really cool. I will, of course, show more in-depth detail whenever it's in the robot mode, because it is kind of hard to show in this mode, because everything is very spread out and kind of in weird angles, and of course, some of this stuff is kind of out of shot. So overall, a really cool looking study mode. Definitely not my favorite, of course. I think probably my favorite is the Scorpion, because it just is so cool and so awesome. Now, let's get into a few kind of size comparisons, I guess you could say, with some core class figures and some deluxe. For some comparisons, here is Black Zarak's city mode, of course, with Black Orichis, which he does turn into a sword, which you can have him wield, which I think I will show a little bit later in this review. Unfortunately, Black Zarak and Black Orichi, again, you can have have him hold him, it's just very hard to actually stay, you know. But I think that looks pretty cool. As you can see, a huge city mode compared to this small deluxe. And for some more comparisons, here he is with Soundwave, just next to him, next to the ramp there. Here he is with Hot Rod, which is pretty cool. And here he is with Megatron on the other side. So as you can see, really big city compared to these small little core class figures, and even this deluxe. So that looks really cool. And again, later when he's in his robot mode, I will have a Titan class comparison. So that looks really cool. So now let's get into transformation into the Scorpion mode. So one last cool little detail you can do with this city mode is some cool storage. So as you can see, of course, you do not need to use the head in this mode at all. It's the city. So of course you could have him transform into his Voyager class size figure and have him, you know, around just patrolling the city or something if you wanted to. Or if you don't want to do that, you can store the head in this city mode. So I would advise taking off the horns. It did work one time, but it can be a kind of a difficult task to get out, so I'm going to take off the horns just to make it easier. You can just plop it in this section right here, just like that, and then you can close this up and it can be stored inside. I think that's pretty cool, a simple little way of storage. Of course, to be aware, if you lift this up, he will fall through. There is no bottom to this little compartment, unfortunately, so really it's just kind of stored there, just if you don't want to see it or have it on the side. So I think it's still a pretty cool little option. Now let's finally get into transformation to the Scorpion. You can get into transformation, of course, we need to take all the accessories off, so let's do that right now. It's a very simple process. Just unpeg that. Of course, there is a peg right there, and there is a port in this main section right there. I'm just going to put that off to the side. Of course, do this with this other section here. There is a peg and a port right there. Unplugging that, and just taking these sections off here. So there is lots of ports and pegs, as you can see there, and they will of course go into the corresponding pegs and ports on this main section here. Just taking that off, of course taking this one off too. Same way it's connected. And then this last accessory is very simple. You can just unplug this section here just like that. And as you can see, there is 2 pegs and 2 ports in that section there. So now let's finally get into transformation. I will make sure to go slow. I will also make sure to zoom out as much as I can just so you can see the best view of all the steps. So first you're going to fold up these ramp sections here just like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Fold up those sections. You can then bring this section down just like that. Very simple. You can then get this these 2 big panels. You can fold that and push that over. Same thing on the other side, just like that. You can then get this section here, fold that up, untab this. As you can see, there is a tab and a big slot right there. You can then bring out this main tail section, just like that. And unfortunately, it does carry that same problem as Scorponok. This section here is way too loose, unfortunately. So now we have that. So now we can do a very big step. So you might not have the best view for now. I will, of course, kind of resituate this whole figure in a little bit because there is a lot of stuff kind of folded out and everywhere. So what you're going to want to do is get this section. You're going to bring this forward. Bring this forward just like that. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit just like that. Then of course we can get these 2 big sections here, the legs, and fold them up. So we can just get this section here, fold it up, just like that. And there we go. So now we can resituate kind of everything. We're going to get this whole section, rotate it to the side here, just like that. So there we go. So we have a big portion of this already done. So of course we do already have these Scorpion legs out because that's what the CD or base called for. So very nice. Of course you can position those however you wish. Now there is these 2 tabs here and these 2 clips there. So you might not be able to see it very well, but you're just going to want to tab that into place. Unfortunately, it does also carry the same problem that Scorponok had. It does not tab in the smoothest. There we go. So there we go. I do apologize if that comes untabbed. It's a very fragile sort of thing, so I'm trying to be as kind of delicate as possible. But as you can see, this section here is very loose, which is kind of unfortunate. But actually only a few more steps, so I'm just going to move this a little bit back so you can see the front a little better. So what you're going to want to do is bring these claws down, and of course out to your, you know, position that you prefer, just like that. There we go, which is very, very nice. Of course, now we can get the scorpion head, which I did show the steps to transform the robot mode head to the scorpion head. It's actually very simple. You really just bring this panel down, very simple. And then, of course, if we move this whole assembly like this, let me make sure you can see it. So as you can see, there's this whole cavity there, and you're just going to want to bring this section in just like that. Make sure everything is aligned. Just bring that in, just like that. And there we go. There is a scorpion mode fully complete. So hopefully you can see everything. Kind of didn't have the best view of the camera. There we go. So yeah, this thing is huge. It's kind of messy right now, but hopefully you were able to see the transformation good. Overall, pretty simple. Unfortunately, yeah, the tail kind of loose, which is a pain. I was kind of expecting that, of course, from the previous version of this mold, Scorponok. So I'm going to neat him up a little bit, and then we will take a look at the details of the Scorpion. So here we have Black Zarak in his Scorpion mode. I am going to start with the camera off the tripod, just because the thing is so huge, you can really barely have a full view at the same time when it's on the tripod. So I'm going to have to move around quite a bit to get everything in view. So we're going to start at the very front with the really cool claws. We have some nice gunmetal gray, some red there and there. Of course, we have a lot of little individual kind of teeth in there, really cool big claws. Of course, we have the insect legs, very creepy, lots of hinges. We have the really cool scorpion face, which I did take a look at earlier in this review, so I won't take a big look at it right now. We have, of course, this is the chest for the robot mode, so some nice blue, so nice Decepticon symbol there. We do have a few pegs here and there if you want to get a Titan Master and plug it right on there. That's pretty cool. And of course, back here we have the legs. These are the outside of the legs for the robot mode, so we do have some nice details there. Some kind of yellow, some silver, some purple, and of course some more brown or bronze, and some black. And this back section here, of course, this is the tail, which is mostly done in black. And on the side, we do have lots of really cool little details of some kind of circuits and mechanical detailing. But overall, very, very nice. So hopefully that was a nice detailed look at the Scorpion. I did the best I could. Of course, again, this thing is just huge, just ginormous. And I will try, of course, to get in a few comparisons, maybe with the Scorpion. I'm not entirely sure if anything will actually fit on this table. So let's try and do that. So here we have Transformers selects Legacy Titan Class Black Zarak with Transformers Kingdom Titan Class Arc, of course, in his ship or Arc mode. And yeah, wow, I'm actually surprised I was able to fit another ship or, alt mode on this table. But yeah, as you can see, this is, of course, a much more compact alt mode. And the Scorpion, of course, he has his claws sticking out. He has his big tail there, which is kind of floppy, unfortunately. And, of course, he has his really cool insect legs. So, two very, very different alt modes, of course. One's an Autobot, one's a Decepticon. So, yeah. But yeah, two really cool looking Titan class figures. Of course, this is a repaint, so nothing crazy or of course unexpected. No new sculpting changes or anything. Really just, of course, the head. That's pretty much it. So now let's get into showing all the accessories and, of course, how they're stored on this really cool Scorpion. Now for storing all the accessories, let's get right into that. It's actually a very simple process. Starting off with these little panel sections, as you can see, there's several little ports there, and of course there's some pegs on the inside of this piece here. You can just plug that right on there. Of course, there is another piece on the other side, so just get that. Apologies, of course you can't really see it, so I'm just going to plug that right into place. There we go. And that's pretty simple, really just adds a few little extra details on there. And of course we have the classic really cool cans. You can plug them on top of there if you want to. I typically don't, so I can just show you what that looks like. So there we go. And of course we can get the second one. There is a port and a peg that will just plug right into place. If I just align that correctly, there we go. And there we go. So of course there is that little pincher shield piece, so I didn't really do that on cam because it's actually very, very hard to show. You just plug it back on the back of the tail. I would love to show it, but every time I tried to record this, the tail would come untabbed, and that is just a pain, you know. So it just plugs back there. It's really nothing crazy. It just kind of didn't have anything else to store it. If you wanted to, you could plug it on the side of the claw, but I guess that might be a little bit overkill. But yeah, if you want to, you can do that. I typically will store it, of course, here at the shoulder, so you can just get that peg, and there is a port right there, and then you can just plug that right into place, like that. And of course, there is the other side. Just plug that into place, just like that, and there we go. So, of course, this figure does come with the big staff. If you wanted to, you can plug them. There's lots of ports everywhere, but by the instructions, there is no designated or assigned way to store them. They never really say, yeah, it goes here, you know, but in the instructions, you know, they say put those pieces there, put those there. So yeah, there's really no specific way. If you wanted to, there's some tons of ports all over this figure, but I typically don't put on there because it is a very big weapon and they kind of jet out and gets in the way. So I typically just kind of leave them off to the side, but again, your toy, do whatever you wish. So overall, a very, very cool looking Scorpion. Probably, yeah, my favorite mode of this, of course, figure. And I would have to say the same thing with Scorponok. So really, really cool looking Scorpion. Huge, just ginormous. So now let's get into some articulation. I won't, of course, go through all of it. I'm just going to go through what I can, of course, because if I do it too much, some pieces could fall off, like the tail could come untabbed, which is pain. So for the tail, I'm going to try and do it very delicately. Here, of course, there is a hinge here, there is a hinge here, and yeah, there's a hinge here, but it is very flappy. The head can look side to side, of course, like that. Pretty good, full 360 degrees there. You can move the horns if you want to, or the teeth or mandibles. The guns here can move like that. The legs here, so there is a attached piece here, so there is a hinge at the very beginning, there's also a hinge here, and there is a hinge here, so there's 3 points of articulation in the little insect legs. For the claws, of course, there is a swivel, there is also a hinge, you just have to have a good grip on it, there's a hinge there, and of course there is the shoulder joint here, and a bend here, so this is a bit obstructed, this shoulder joint, unfortunately, because the insect legs are a little close, which a lot of people complained about that when they first got Scorponok. I do agree, maybe they should have had a bigger gap, because it's very hard for them not to rub against each other, so I would keep in mind of that. So, overall, pretty good articulation. I think I probably have covered everything, you know. Of course, you can open the claws if you want to, just like that, and of course, there's hinges here, so there's a lot of really cool playability factors. So now, let's get into the transformation from the Scorpion mode to the Robot mode. For transformation for the Scorpion mode to the Robot mode, I did take off the accessories and the Scorpion mode head or the Robot mode head just so it wouldn't get in the way or fall off or anything. Of course, you could surely transform this with the head on. I'm just making sure it doesn't fall off or get in the way. That's just for your own viewing pleasure. So now, let's get into transformation. So we're going to start at the very back with the tail. So what you're going to want to do is just bring this section down, and then you can fold up the tail completely, just like that. You can get this panel here, and this will just collapse just like that. And there we go. So now we can get to the legs. This is my suggestion: do the legs first. You can kind of stand everything up, and of course get everything sort of sorted out, you know, after. Just so it's, you know, not always on the ground. I think it's a little bit easier. But now we can do this. So we can loosen these panels up. We can bring this like this. We can kind of move the figure onto the table a little bit more. We can bring these out like that. Kind of everything like that. Bring these panels out here. And then as you can see, these two sections here, these will just fold out like that. And then you can bring this whole assembly up. Just like that. Same thing on the other side. And then this will just kind of overlap like that and peg into place. Same thing on the other leg. That will peg into place. And there we have the legs pretty much done. You just need to fold those out. So here's kind of the hard part. So you need to really sit this up straight and get the legs, you know, not bending. They're bending really. So it might be a little bit messy during the transformation, so I do apologize for that. So now let's get right into it. I'm going to raise the camera because it's about to get super, super tall. So we're going to raise this up, and as you can see, the legs are bent. So bend those, of course, so it can stand, just like that. And there we go. So right now it's kind of leaning forward, of course, because the claws are up. So I do want to advise a warning, because it can lean forward or almost fall if you do not move these. So make sure you have a good grip on it at most times. So what you're going to want to do is move these legs back. You can bring the claws down like this. There we go. And then you're going to want to move the camera down so you can see better. You can then rotate at the waist, just like that. Move the claws down so it can be better support, like that. There we go. And now we can fix the back. So let me rotate this around. There we go. And now we can kind of tackle this. So let me just move the camera a little bit more so you can see it a little bit better. So for the insect legs, what you want to make sure to do is have this little nail or you know, talon or whatever you want to call it, the feet of the insect legs. Make sure those are folded up like this, because then they will not fit inside. So just fold those up, bring those in. Of course, do it with the other side as well. Fold those little sections up, and then you can put those in just like that. And there we go. Make sure that's flat and flush. Then we can get this tail section here and just kind of fold everything up and compress it just like that. And everything should be nice and good. I do want to add several points to Black Zarak for this over Scorponok, because Scorponok's back, you know, section here was really bad, because every time I even touched the figure, this whole section would just like unravel. It didn't happen, you know, a lot, but it happened more than it really should. And this does not happen at all with this figure. So now we can move this figure forward. And there we have, I guess, pretty much the bulk of the figure done. I just need to kind of straighten him up a little bit off camera, and then of course we can get some comparisons and take a look at the detail. Here we have Black Zarak in his robot mode. Of course, he is not complete. He doesn't have his head or accessories, so let's get into applying all those to his robot mode body. So of course we have the head here. So you can have the head attached with the Titan Master, or you can have that off to the side. Typically I just have it attached with it, so you can just plug that right in here on top, just like that. So there we have the head fully attached. I think that looks pretty cool. And of course we have these really cool shoulder cannons, which there is a port and a peg right there, and that can just plug right into place just like that. Of course there is one for the other shoulder right here. And there we go. And of course that little shield piece, there is several uses for that, which we can get into in a little bit. So we have these little panel pieces, which just store on the side of the leg. So we can just plug that right into place like that, and I think that looks pretty cool. So of course there's lots of ports, and there's some pegs on the side of the leg, and that just plugs in. So we can just go to this side, just plug that in like this, and there we have that. So pretty cool. So for this shield piece, you can plug it into his arm if you want to, but we'll show that a little bit later. You can also just store it back here, which is the same place. These are actually the same connection ports that he used for the Scorpion mode. So you can just plug that in like that, just aligning those up, and there we go. So that just stores like that. So yes, he is finally complete. Here is Black Zarak in his robot mode, and I think he looks really cool, but again, huge, just a huge, really cool looking figure. Let me just kind of scooch him back a little bit. Actually, I want to try and get him fully in shots. So yeah, that is a really cool looking Titan class figure. Let's take a look at the details. So for taking a look at the details, we're going to go kind of section by section of this figure because it is just so big. So starting at the very top here, of course, we have the head looking very nice with the mostly red, of course, at the front and sides of the head. We have the nice horns, of course, some nice purple there for the crest section or forehead. We, of course, can make out the nose, mouth, and forehead and eyes looking very cool. The eyes are done with some nice purple and black, and of course the face is done in that nice bronze. Some more bronze for these main cannons at the shoulders, some black for the shoulder itself. For these big claw sections here, mostly done in that black with some gunmetal gray and red, and I think that looks pretty good. For the main chest section, we have some nice black, of course, for the main structure of it, but of course we have some nice brown there, looking very cool, some nice gunmetal gray, some turquoise there, the nice Decepticon symbol picked out in some silver and purple. Moving the camera lower to the legs and crotch section and feet, we have some nice black, some gunmetal gray and silver for the crotch section. For the main leg itself, we have some nice gunmetal gray, some turquoise, and of course the main thing is really black. To the lower section, we have some nice silver and purple and gunmetal gray, and lots of really nice sculpting and detailing. For the feet themselves, there's really that nice brown with some black. And that's pretty much it for details. Overall, really cool looking figure, of course. This is the exact same thing as Scorponok, really just that new head sculpt. But overall, it's a really cool figure that I highly recommend. Let me know in the comment section below, which one do you like more, Scorponok or Black Zarak? I, of course, will bring him out in a little bit for comparison. So, for one of the last few things we need to do for this review was, of course, articulation. So let me just zoom out a little bit more so we can get everything in shots. So starting at the very top here, of course, the head can rotate all the way around. The shoulder here can move, of course, all the way around on that ratchet, a very strong ratchet. It can move, of course, out and in. There's the elbow bends. The claw, of course, can open and close with this hinge here. Of course, there's also this here, and there is this hinge here. And of course, this can rotate all the way around at this swivel here. So, pretty good articulation for the claw slash shoulder and arm. So now for the waist, it can rotate all the way around, but I really won't do that because it is kind of hard work, but it can, as you can see, have pretty good degree of motion. Now for the legs, I'm going to move the camera down just a little bit more so you can see everything. So for the legs, they can kick that far out, like that, so they can do the full splits, of course. There is a knee bend to a very good degree. There is a swivel, and of course you can kick back to a very good degree. And also, of course, there is an ankle tilt. I could probably find some more bits of articulation here and there. It's just really hard to handle this figure, of course, because it is just so heavy and so big. But overall, pretty good articulation for this figure. I would say it's pretty much the exact same as Scorponok's, pretty much. But yeah, overall, very good articulation. So now let's get into some comparisons, and I will, of course, show you what he looks like when he's holding his really big battle. So here we have both versions of this mold. We have Black Zarak and Scorponok. As you can see, really mold-wise, they're very similar. Really, it's just down to that head sculpt. So yeah, these two figures here are really cool. So of course, this is from the Earthrise line before Kingdom, so about 2-3 years ago, and this is actually fairly recent. I just got it a few weeks ago. This is part of the Legacy Selects line. Two very cool figures. I honestly think I have to say probably Scorponok might be my favorite. I keep going back and forth because, of course, Scorponok, it's a classic. He's a very classic figure. Every Transformers fan knows who that character is, but I really do like the very dark, really cool turquoise look to this figure. I love the bronze. Really cool. I also do like how he comes with the spear. Finally, we give, you know, a kind of big weapon to a Titan class figure. I thought it was always a big problem that we never got a weapon for a Titan class figure. I wasn't bothered by that with Scorponok because in the show, of course, he never had like a signature weapon or anything. I was mostly annoyed with like Predaking from Power of the Primes. He did not come with a sword, which really was annoying for me. So two really cool Titan class figures. Let me just move him off to the side, and then I'm going to get in one more Titan class comparison. He is with Omega Supreme, so I have to say probably Black Zarak is a little bit taller, even if you're counting these wing sections here. So yeah, this one's of course from Siege, and again this one is from Legacy. So two very different looking figures. Of course, this is a Decepticon, this is a Autobot. Of course, he turns into like a rocket and a station. This one turns into a city and a scorpion. But two pretty cool looking Titan class figures. Let me know which one you like between these two the most. But yeah, two very cool looking Titan class figures. So now let me move and make Supreme off to the side. Then I'll get into a few small little accessory options, of course, like the spear, and you can make a shield out of all those accessories. Now for the last few features or options you can do with this accessories. So of course there are these panels here that were on the side of the legs, and there's this big pincher or shield piece here, so you can actually connect these two pieces together. As you can see, there is those 4 pegs, and there is those 4 ports, and if you just plug those together, it can form this really big shield, which is pretty cool. I did go more in depth with this accessory in the beginning of the video, so if you missed that, go make sure you check that out. So as you can see, there is tons of pegs and ports, and there's a lot of them corresponding to them on the side of the arm. Of course, you could do either arm or either claw, and you can just plug this right into place. So just lining that up, and you can do that. So pretty cool. Of course, you can move this a little bit more in so I can see that a little bit better. I think that looks pretty cool. So now there is a few little more options you can do. So of course he does have his really big spear, which is it's just huge. It's so big. So of course you could store this on his back. There's these pegs here that you can use for that, or you can have him hold it. So holding it is easier said than done, because there's really no assigned way. You kind of just mingle it in there. That's really just beginner's luck, I guess, first try. But I would be aware that it is not a sturdy connection, as if you just move it a little, it'll wiggle around. So it's not a, connection or a peg or a tab, which is what I really wish they did, because it's not secure whatsoever. Several times I've left it in his hand, and it'll just fall. It won't, break or anything, of course. It's pretty sturdy, tabbed together, the pieces, of course, the spear. But yeah, I think that still looks pretty cool. I just think it's kind of a missed opportunity. I really think they should have used these pegs here on there, and they could have had a port inside the claw where you could have plugged it in. But, really the most important thing I think is just, it looks really cool appearance-wise, It stays most of the time, I would say. But yeah, I think that looks really cool. He has his sword and his shield. That looks pretty cool. I think he is definitely ready for battle. That looks pretty darn awesome. So of course there is an alternate way of storage. We just open his hand there, and we just kind of put that down for a second. We can rotate him a little bit, and there is some pegs or ports on the back, and you can use these on the spear itself, and you can just plug it back there if you want to, if you don't want him holding onto it, which is pretty cool. And I like how you can kind of see it from the front, so it can show he has some artillery in the back. He's ready. So that's pretty cool. Especially it's very useful to do that if you want to get Black Arichi out and have him hold it. So yes, this is Black Arichi from the Selects line. This was during Siege, I think, or maybe Earthrise. This is actually the figure that made us think we were going to get this, because these are kind of buds, just like Fast Track and Scorponok. They're kind of buds, sort of. So what you can do, of course, there is this big handle section there, and you can kind of just, again, mingle it in there, just like his spear that it came with himself. So I think that looks pretty good. Really just works just like Fast Track and Scorponok. You kind of just mingle it in there, and it just sort of works. Sometimes it doesn't. Unfortunately, of course, this sword is made out of the robot itself, so not the most sturdy, kind of flappy, as you can see. But still, this looks really cool. I mean, he has a sword there, a shield, and another spear on his back. So if Fast Track wants to, if Black Arichi wants to fight himself, he can bring out a spear, and he's good. He's well equipped. So yeah, pretty much all the accessories and options I think I've gone over. Let me know, do you think this looks good? Do you think it works, the Black Arichi sort of thing? Yeah, I think it looks good. Just, the problem is the handle is made out of Black Arichi's arms, so yeah, it's kind of wiggly wobbly, sort of, so I would be aware of that whenever you're trying to do this. But, I mean, it took like a few seconds, and it actually stayed pretty good, so yeah, Overall, just final thoughts. I think this is a really cool looking Titan class. I think, reviewing a Titan class figure can be a bit frustrating. I took a while to do this review, so I just want to say I'd be nice and cool if you could maybe subscribe or like this video, because this was actually quite a bit of work. Probably not my best video in my opinion, because it's really hard to do super in-depth, especially with the space I have. I had to just grab a random table, and just work with what I got, and this is what I got. Hopefully it looks good on camera. Let me know, does this look good? Because if this version of my reviews for Titan class works and looks good, this will be how I do it from now on for, the next years and years to come for Titan class figures. So yeah, overall a really good figure. I like the robot mode, really really cool. I love how you can incorporate it with other figures, like Black Orichi or Fast Track if you wanted to. The spear is really cool. I just think they could have maybe refined that concept better, because there's pegs in there, so really I wish there was some ports inside the claw itself for it to actually securely tab in. Really the only way you can have them hold it is just kind of, just luck, really. You just kind of gotta mingle it, metal it in there, and it just works. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it does. Transformation through all the modes, it's pretty easy. Just it requires a little bit of backbone, a little bit of work, to it. There's really some tight connections. There's a lot of tight joints, which is good. I'm glad that there's some tight connections. I think it's most important, especially in a Titan class figure, because it's so big and it's so much weight and so many stuff to it. So it is important. Overall, as Scorpion mode is amazing, looks super super cool. When I transformed it actually for the first time, I was expecting, oh, I know what it's going to look like. It's just going to be like, Scorponok's, but it's going to be, of course, some new colors, a new color scheme. But every time I transform, I'm like, this is so big. Like, it's so huge. I'm always surprised. The city mode, I think it's okay. I know they include it in there because, of course, Scorponok in the old show, the last 3 episodes of the G1 show, he had his city mode, so of course, they had to include it. City mode's not my favorite, I think. It's okay. It does seem kind of like on the back of their mind. It didn't seem like they put that much work into it. I think their probably main attraction, of course, was the robot mode and the Scorpion mode. So that's kind of what I was expecting, really, to be just like Scorponok's, and I just kind of feel meh about it. It's just okay. My only complaint, really, about the Scorpion mode is I wish the tail was tighter connection. It's very floppy. You saw that several times in this review, which is what I was expecting, because that's just how Scorponok's was, which I was really hoping they were going to fix that problem. You could probably easily fix that problem with some floor polish or something. I typically do not customize my toys. I've stopped doing that because I just leave them how they are, and, I take them for what they are, and that they're a good figure. I typically do not modify them. If you're okay with doing that, then by all means, go ahead, do that. Overall, a really good figure, highly recommend it. Yes, it's pretty expensive. It's, $170 with tax, maybe $180, depending on where you buy it from and what the shipping is. But still, I think it's a worthwhile figure, even if you already have Scorponok. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.